Good morning, everybody. This is Janine from ACL. Very happy to have everybody here joining us today for this webinar. So the objective for this webinar will be going through some of the spring release features that happened this past month. And the topics that we're going to be covering are all based on the questionnaire that you guys have answered. So we will have about a 30-minute presentation based on the answers you have provided. And afterwards, we'll have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions in regards to any of the features that we are presenting today, please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A chat box so that way we can answer your questions later on. So for today, we will be having 3 individuals joining us today. So we have Kris Hutton, our Director of Product Management, also Shane Grimm, one of our Senior Product Manager on ACL Analytics products, and also Kevin Legere, the Director of Product Design. So let's begin.
Great, thanks Janine. Kevin Legere here. Happy to take you through the beginning of our items today. As Janine said, we kind of did a bit of a custom presentation here for today's webinar based on feedback from the questionnaire that we sent you. And everybody wanted to see quite different things, and you all sort of own different parts of our platform, as well as you all use it in slightly different ways. So we tried to accommodate all of the feedback that was provided in the questionnaire. However, at the end, we'll have about a 30-minute presentation, and then we'll have about 30 minutes to open up for questions. So if there's anything that we don't cover in the overview today, we can talk about it at the end. So based on your feedback, what we're going to be showing you is a quick overview of the spring release on communities. A lot of you are asking, where can I go to see one page of everything that was released and get more information? So we'll show you where that is and how you can get that information and how you can use it. Then there were 2 particular items on the GRC side that people wanted more information on. So I'm actually going to do a quick harbor tour actually in product of compliance maps and the strategy module. After that, there were a lot of questions actually in our release webinar as well, and your feedback on the survey around what's included in my analytics subscription, what's not. So we're actually going to provide some clarification there. And give you actually access to, we have a PDF that sort of explains it in more detail. And then as well at the question period, if anything's not clear, we can talk about it more then. Next up, a lot of people are asking about what's new with analytics, what are the new data connectors, what's new with direct link, integration with Tableau, how are people using R in Python. So Mr. Shane Grimm, the Iron Man, is going to take us through some of that. And then at the end, we'll give you a bit of a glimpse into what we're working on for our next release around the November timeframe, which we're calling the fall release. So with that, I am going to kick right into it. So first up, there were quite a few questions around, can I just have one page with everything that came out in the spring release? I want an overview. How do I share this with my user groups, etc.? So I actually have 2 links for you here in the presentation. I believe we'll be sharing this presentation with you afterwards, so you'll be able to share this with your user groups. The first one I'm going to click on, which takes you to ACL Communities, basically a few pages overview of everything that was released in the spring release. So this kind of takes you to a release overview where it talks about kind of the high-level themes of what we focused on. And then you can actually drill into the details of everything that was released. So for example, on the GRC side, if I go through, you can see that we focused a lot of attention on enterprise risk management, on compliance management, on workflows and remediation, as well as risk performance capabilities and improved reporting functionality. And then if you click on any one of these links, it actually takes you to the section on the page where it gives you a bit more detail. For instance, on enterprise risk management here, we have an overview of all of the sort of big features that we released as part of the release, everything from being able to track key metrics as relates to your strategic risks, aggregated control testing, issues, and risk assurance from your operational projects, being able to link treatment items and assess residual risk on your enterprise level risks, as well as enhanced risk heat maps. We now have a strategic risk library that's curated from the S&P 500 10K reports, the ability to make risk assessments collaborative through a feature we call risk workshops, and et cetera. So you see, as I go through this page, we kind of detail out all of the different things that were in the spring release. And then for each section, we also have sort of a meant to option click on that. Let me just go back so it opens up in a new tab. You can easily click on the release notes if you want more details, and this takes you to our help documentation, where then you can get sort of more details on everything that was released. So this is a really great, this communities page is sort of a really good overview. Not quite one page, it's kind of tough to fit all this information on one page, but we have one page for everything released on the GRC side, and then as well, which Shane will be going over in a little bit more detail. On the analytics side, you can see everything that was released for analytics, analytics exchange, direct link, essentials, as well as some bonus features. So really good sort of overview of everything that was released, and also has for areas where you need a little bit more information, you can click, go to the release notes, and actually dig into our help documentation to get a little bit more information. So thought that giving you guys the link to this page so you could share with your user groups would help people easily find the information that was relevant to them and easily find the information that they want to find more details on in relation to our spring release. So I'll just pop back to the presentation. The other thing I wanted to show you was, in case you missed it, we actually had a 1-hour release webinar where we went over all of those items in a little bit more detail, as well as had a bit of demo on the ERM side for the strategy module, as well as for compliance maps. And so I've included a link here for that webinar, which was hosted by myself, Chad Wood, and Sergio. And so that was recorded, as well as the Q&A at the end. So you're welcome to share that with your user groups as well. I recommend that you go through it if there are items you want more information on from the spring release. And then the link that's not included here, but we will make sure that we send to you. We had a webinar last Thursday where we went over ACL's way to make compliance suck less. So basically, Dan Zitting and Keith Cerny, Dan Zitting being our Chief Product Officer, Keith Cerny being our Chief Technical Officer, who oversees compliance, security, and R&D here at ACL, take you through how ACL internally handles our regulatory compliance and how we've scaled that down to be a sort of a scalable thing for us. So instead of having to test thousands of requirements across all of our regulatory compliance, we now just test our 200-300 key controls, taking the operational burden away from managing compliance. So we don't have that webinar posted on our website yet, but I believe that's going to be up later this week, and we'll make sure that we send that link along to you as well in case you missed it, as well as so you can share it with your various user groups. So I think that about covers it for this slide. Basically just wanted to share links to our community and our website where you can find information that a lot of you were asking questions about in the survey that we sent out, as well as make sure that for people who missed both of those webinars are able to go view them at their leisure. So with that, I'll actually move on to deep dive a little bit more into the product. So first, I wanted to talk a little bit about, with our spring release, we released a new capability that basically centralizes compliance management with a feature that we're calling compliance maps. So what compliance maps allows you to do is manage all of your regulatory compliance, or could be internal policies or standards that you need to track, map those to your internal controls, then be able to aggregate up whenever those controls are being tested by your assurance teams, aggregate up the testing results and any issues that arise, be able to track where do we have gaps, where are we covered, what do we still have to implement. And then we provide the ability for you to load in your own standards or regulations, but we also provide out-of-the-box COSO 2013 internal control framework, as well as COBIT 5 as preloaded content that you can use. And then we have premium add-ons available for ISO 27002, FSMA, NIST, PCI, FedRAMP, and many more. We also have a content team that will be building out more of these over time. And we can provide more information on that if you are interested. But actually, I thought it would be interesting. A lot of you did say that you wanted to kind of see a bit more nitty-gritty of this in the product. And actually, in the release webinar video, Chad Wood, who is way better at demoing software than I am, actually does a quick harbor tour of compliance maps. So I recommend going back and watching that video. However, right now I'll sort of fumble through with my less than Chad Wood style demo skills and kind of just give you a quick harbor tour of what compliance maps is all about. So here I am in ACL GRC in compliance maps, and I actually have a bunch of content here loaded into our demo org. So you can see here I have COBIT 5, COSO internal framework, FedRAMP, etc. For those of you who are wondering how you get those out of the box included content into your system, you can go to Manage Standards and Regulations, click on Import from Library, and in here all of you will be able to find, who have access to ACL GRC, the COBIT 5 framework and the COSO Internal Control Framework 2013. And you'll be able to select these and import these in order to work on in your environment. As well as right from here, you'll actually be able to click and link to the other add-ons or the other content that we provide. Like, for instance, we provide an IT compliance pack that provides ISO, FSMA, NIST, PCI, etc. And coming soon, we have sort of industry-specific for banking and lending, healthcare, and government coming. And then if you don't want to load it into your system, you want us to manage it for you, we actually allow you to tell us about what sort of standards and regulations you would like to see us integrate into the product, and you can easily request those here. So let's go back to compliance maps. Let's go back to the main screen here. So here I have my COBIT 5 framework that I'm tracking. And you can see here at the top, it shows me across all my standards and regulations, how many requirements are applicable to me, how many I've marked as not applicable, how many gaps I still have, and how much coverage I have. So you can see here in the demo environment, haven't really done a lot of work yet. We only have 65 covered. We still have a lot of gaps. But I'll actually take you through a few requirements and show you how you can work with those. So under here in COBIT 5, sort of build, acquire, and implement being sort of the first sort of section in the tree. And then as you dig down into this framework, you get down into more and more details. So we call all of these requirements, sort of this higher level in the tree is sort of the parent requirement. And then these other ones are sort of children requirements. So the way we've sort of designed compliance maps is you can choose at what level of granularity in your standard and regulation you want to work. And then basically you click on that level in the tree. You can then view the details of those particular requirements. You can mark them as either applicable or not applicable to you. If you mark them not applicable, you can then add in some rationale as to why those requirements are not applicable to you. They then get taken off your applicable list and get thrown into your not applicable list. So basically take them off the list of things that you need to do or worry about. Obviously, the easiest way to be compliant with something is if it's not applicable to you, because it basically means you don't have to do anything. The next thing that we allow you to do sort of when working with your requirements is be able to mark whether, as an organization, whether you have that covered in some way, and again, be able to mark rationale as to why your organization is meeting that requirement. And then down below here, we actually allow you to map your internal controls to those requirements. And then you can see here, I can see these two controls are mapped to this sub-requirement. So if I click down here to get more detail, I can see these map controls. I can see they haven't been tested yet by my assurance team, and so no issues have been found. So the great thing here about compliance maps is once you've mapped out all the internal controls that help you meet your regulatory compliance, you can then track your audit and compliance testing across all of your projects and any issues that may come up as those happen. So I've already spent quite a bit of time. A lot of people tell me I ramble, so I'm going to try to not ramble too much more about compliance maps. But if you'd like some more information on that, feel free to ask questions at the end or follow up with us.
Yeah, so just a couple points. I think we have a couple GRC user group leaders. I think what compliance maps allows people to do that projects does not is if they have many regulations or many standards that might be covered by the same control, you can now handle that many to one relationship or many to many much better. So it not only allows you to manage the content in one place, but then it allows you to rationalize, which the process that Kevin just went through, so you can actually reduce the amount of work you need to do year after year to show your regulators or your professional bodies or industry standards. So when you rationalize your requirements, all that work Kevin just did will get spit out in an Excel report that you can show to your regulator when they come in. So it'll show every regulation or standard on a different tab in Excel with all the detailed requirements, whether you're covering them at the parent or the child level, and then it'll show the testing results or the issues as well. So that one Excel extract will self-serve some of the needs that you need to distribute to others that you need to inform about your compliance work.
Great. Thanks, Kris. So with that, I'm going to move on to the improvements we did to the strategy module, really focusing on helping organizations manage their strategic objectives, as well as assess and treat their enterprise-level risks. So a bunch of core capabilities that we added, as I talked about before, is a curated risk library from the S&P 500 10K reports, being able to collaborate on your enterprise risk assessments with risk workshops, real-time monitoring of your most important KRI and KPIs in the context of those enterprise-level risks, being able to identify treatment areas on how you're treating the risk and assessing residual risk, as well as being able to track assurance and aggregate risk assurance control testing and issues. I was actually going to take you through a bit of a harbor tour of the strategy module, but Chad Wood does a great demo of that in the release webinar, and because we're already 20 minutes in and we're sort of crunched for time, I'm just going to sort of move on. However, if you have any questions at the end, I'll be happy to go in product and answer those questions for you. Do you want to add anything on this?
Well, I would say because the user group tends to be heavy analytic, for the few leaders in there that are GRC customers, I think I'd be happy if you reached out through the chat or after, we could do a personal walkthrough for you and cover some of the things. I think because you're using data and integrating it into your audit or your other GRC workflow, there's a lot of lot of benefits in using analytics to use risk-based assessments and inform your assessment or your treatment. So I think there's a lot of great integration points from this release that we could kind of walk through on a personal level.
Yeah, as always, data analytics continues to be the core to our entire platform, and we integrate all of your work on data analytics into all phases of the GRC process. All right, so with that, I will pass on to Kris. Are you going to be taking on this section?
Yeah, so I think there was some of the questions from the group that came around. We weren't sure what's included or not included, and I think going back to the communities page, so there were several mediums that all of this was communicated. So definitely the communities page is a great source. So some of our GRC customers log into the Launchpad kind of daily, so they get from the Launchpad, it's your portal to access all things in your subscription. And maybe some of the analytic users tend to just stay on their desktop and they don't have a need to go into the Launchpad, but there's a lot of great things in there. So first of all, the overview of what's in the release, and it separates out by product line. So I'd encourage you to go in there. There's also multi-page PDF and a single-page PDF. Some people were asking for, can you just list out in one page what's on the release? So there is a single-page PDF. If it wasn't included in the webinar invite, we can have our marketing ladies or Janine send it out separately. And then there's a monthly or quarterly blog, the Product Pulse, that kind of also highlights things in the release as well. So there's kind of multiple channels for you to get informed of what's coming out. So what does your AN subscription include? So definitely all things ACL analytics, all the Concur data connector. There was a focus on performance. Some of the most common commands like sort were kind of re-engineered to perform better. The new data access window, pre-built visualizations and analysis apps, so you can kind of use a centralized librarian type where one data scientist is building scripts and distributing to the broader team who can run them. So now your vises can be pre-built, and a lot of customer top requests from the user forum and defects as well. So all of that in the release is obviously included. So everything in ACL Analytics, and for any of the customers that have Analytics Exchange as well, all of the same improvements in AN were included. So the Concur driver, as well as an ODBC driver for your AX file. So if you use other BI tools for reporting like Tableau or Click or Microsoft or IBM, you can take the output of AX and use it for reporting purposes. You can also import analysis apps directly, and then there was a lot of improvement around security and performance with the Java 64-bit. Now, what's also included in your subscription, and not all analytics customers take advantage of, the Launchpad is the portal, but all of the resources and tools available, like Script Hub, like the community, and Janine's the manager of community, and she facilitates a lot of the work with the user groups. But there's a lot of things in there like Script Hub and Academy that you all get access to. So with Academy, there was the CPE credits were made official from NASBA. There was a new ACL 303 Power Scripting course, and of course ACDA Advanced. And the other thing that was made available, I'm not sure if you know, I think it was last release, but as a manager in an org, you can actually request reporting of progress in Academy. So I think you get a token. I think you make the request through ACL and you'll get a token. And so if you have a team that you want to be taking Academy training, you can actually see the progress and which courses they've actually done. So you can keep on top of it and make sure they do it and have awareness and transparency of that. So that's all included. The other thing that's included with every analytics subscription is Result Light access. So what we do is we give, for every analytic license, whether you're ACL Analytics or Analytics Exchange, the analytic license holder gets a Pro Lite access, and they get 2 contributor licenses. And so one thing that's important to know, this is an opt-in usage only. So the results is part of the GRC platform, and what it provides is a workflow to what you do with analytic results. So if you're doing testing of controls or compliance, things like that, you'll get exceptions. So what results is meant to do is give a capability to provide workflow to review, to assign to somebody so they can review it, dispatch it to someone else, investigate if there's actually a problem or a control gap, and they can either determine that there's nothing wrong or that there is in fact a control gap, and you can escalate and fix the control. Anyway, for Results Lite, analytics customers can opt in to use it. If you don't care to use the cloud and do workflow or don't do that part of the job, if you do nothing, it'll never work. So you have to do a bunch of things to make it work. For those that do want to use it, Results Lite gives you ability to check out what's available in the results module for workflow remediation, and where there are restrictions are the total number of tests and total records. So it's there as an ability to see if it adds value, but it's part of the GRC platform, and it requires a subscription. But you can go in, test it out, provide some tests, you can do upload data, you can do questionnaires, you can visualize the data, the same visualize you have in the analysis apps. The things that were not included in the release and that the AN subscription does not include, so when we talk about essentials, they're a premium suite of pre-built analysis apps that are designed to run on our server, and there's 11 ERP process areas, and we added 2 new ones, so T&E and segregation of duties, to go with a whole bunch of others like payables and vendor management. So those are all premium subscription for the if you have Audit Exchange, Analytics Exchange. The other things that were additional subscription were the Kevin showed compliance maps. If you are a GRC customer, it does come with 2 included in your subscription, and those are COBIT and COSO framework, internal control framework. The other packs were premium, so there was an IT pack there. Those are subscription. So the benefit of those is ACL will curate that content, whether it's industry standard like ISO 27002 or PCI. So if those areas are applicable to your business, ACL will curate them, will monitor them, will update them, so you don't have to worry about what's changing, and it is a recurring subscription for the compliance map. Anything GRC in the release, so all things related to the strategy, projects, results, and reports modules are included for customers that have GRC subscriptions, so a lot of the user group are analytics only. So where you do get a little bit of access is Results Lite access to the results module. So you'll get full functionality, but you'll have restrictions on total data. So it's intended as a sandbox to play in, but it's kind of commercially restricted, so it requires a subscription. The last thing in the GRC platform as well is there's something called impact reports. So we've added an ability to report into Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint. There were a couple reports added in your results area of your project. So we add ACL built reports, but there's a lot of customers that will have board mandated or oversight body mandated report where you say, can you match this report exactly? So an impact report is where you have a template in Word or PowerPoint, you give us your template, and we build the data hooks into the template, and that's a premium subscription as well. So those are the things that are included or not included in your subscription.
All right.
And I think with that, we're going to go to Shane to talk about.
Perfect. I'm going to bring up a number of things. I all have it under the umbrella of open data. Thanks, Kris. Yeah, so right now I'd like to just, there's a couple of questions about R and Python, but I just want to bring it under the umbrella of what we call this concept of open data at ACL, which really is about us understanding that you have a really valuable resource of this data out there that you want to be able to take control over and be able to use and have access to the tools that you need to make yourself successful, and no matter what your boss is asking you to do next with your data. So within here we have three main areas. The first one, I'll get Kevin to just get into the next pop-up should be data in. Is this idea that we can get data from anywhere, no matter what. And so with that, as you've seen already, we have a brand new interface that we've offered you with ACL Analytics 12.0, which allows you to do all sorts of things that you've asked for in the past. Be able to join tables on the server side, giving you access to a 32-bit ODBC drivers, and as well as 64-bit ODBC drivers, giving you access to be able to actually insert SQL code. We've also included in there system-specific connectors, so we now have cloud data sources, and we're adding new data sources with each release. Just also want to remind you that the existing data definition wizard still exists for some of the older data imports like report files and things like that. And then also in the data, we have Direct Link, which has been updated for SAP S4 HANA, which is SAP's latest ERP system. So we just recently were certified with that, and with that, also want to make sure everyone understands that we can also access not only SAP ERP, we can access customer relationship management, supplier relationship management, supply chain management, extended warehouse management, a number of different applications within SAP. The next one there we have is more analysis. So with that, we really wanted to give you more tools to choose from. So that's where we've implemented an integration with R and Python, as well as the ability to use SQL code as part of the data definition. And really this is all about getting rid of roadblocks. We've had requests for being able to do some type of advanced statistical or predictive analysis. Now you have the option of choosing the tool that makes the most sense to help you get that job done. At the same time, stay within the ACL environment. I know people have had questions like, how are customers using this today? And so far, the most I've seen is people are taking advantage of how ACL has really good import preparation tools, and then they use our Python to do some of the more advanced analytics. And what we're seeing them do is they are actually starting to package these up into what we call analysis apps, so that they can give this complex analysis to their end users in a simple-to-use interface, so they don't have to worry about learning how to script or learn how to use R or Python. The third one there, that will, Kevin, if you could just tap to the next one, is results out. So now that you've had the data in, you've had a chance to do all your analysis, we want to open this up and allow you to share this data in a number of different ways. The one that gets the most press right now, which I would say is the ACL data connector. This is where you can use an ACL table as a data source for a complementary tool such as Tableau or ClickView, or even if you want to, although I don't like it that much, but you can use Excel to import this data or connect to an ACL table and show it within Excel. Other parts of being able to get results out, of course, is, as Kris mentioned just previously, is that we have this results module that allows you to share data within a web page and allows you to do a lot more with that. You can export directly from ACL to results module. And another piece that's available too is kind of back into data in, but I don't want to talk about earlier, is the fact that you can import data from results or project manager back into ACL Analytics. That's something that's, I think, is extremely exciting, but often forgotten, is because now that you have this tool that can collect a lot of more information about your data, you can actually import that back into ACL for further analysis. All right, so with that, let's talk about the future of analytics. So we have just released a number of, I think, pretty large releases, including our spring release. and our developers have already been busy working on our next or our fall release. So in here, I think some of the things that we're going to continue to do will be what we've seen before or in past releases is all these user experience tweaks or improvements and making things a little bit easier, because as ACL Analytics users, I'm sure we've all experienced this. We kind of get used to the quirks in AN and know the workarounds. So we're trying to get rid of that and make it so that it just works as people expect the first way. And to do that, we're actually looking to our ACL user forums. So if you are, if you have some ideas of things that you'd like to see improved, please go into our communities online within ACL GRC and post your own ideas or vote on other people's ideas, because that's one of the areas that we look at improving things. For example, in 12.5, report templates came from that, or when you export to a different file format, the ability to quickly jump to that folder where you exported that file. Those are some of the ideas. Some of the things that we're looking for within the fall release is the ability to import multiple worksheets. So as you know, an Excel file can have several worksheets in it. ACL will have the ability to import those into separate tables into your project. And of course, now that they're in separate tables, the next question everyone has is, I want to bring them all into one table. So we're looking at implementing a new command to be able to combine tables into a single table, and also do some of the harmonization that people get frustrated with, where field lengths may be a little bit different. It'll consolidate those and combine those tables much faster than you've been able to do before. We'll do some more improvements with our R and Python integration. We'll look at also expanding the ADA, the data access window to new data sources. We're looking at things like MySQL, Amazon S3, Marketo, PayPal, Square, QuickBooks. Some of the things that we're looking at, I don't want to promise that they'll all be in there, but there are some of the ones that we are on the list. And then we're also looking at the ability to use API calls to web services to be able to import data. So again, all those are things we're looking at. I can't promise what we'll see, but I hope some of those sound interesting to you. Other piece that we'll look at too, of course, if you've looked at our analysis apps, and if you haven't, open up the latest version of ACL, click on or right-click on any table, and select Open as Analysis app to take a look at this new interface to be able to view data and actually explore it with visualization. So within there, we'll continue to do improvements. You'll see some more visualization options. And then with that, we'll be adding some more content. So we've already had a chance to take a look at inspirations in Script Hub, growing database of great ideas and great scripts that you can implement. We're also expanding the premium analysis apps that Kris mentioned are essentials. We just added T&E as well as transactional level segregation of duties testing. So beyond fall, I can't really say too much, but definitely our priorities in there was we're going to continue to make analytics easier for everyone and improve on this concept of open data. We want to take advantage of this growing pool of content, which is our inspirations in Script Hub and other pieces of content within ACL GRC. We'll continue to expand the tools that you can use to access data, as well as work with larger data files and improve performance. So I think that's about as much as I can say right now, unless Kevin or Kris want to add anything to what we can see in the future of analytics.
Yeah, I think you did a good job of covering sort of what's coming on the analytics side in our fall release. So thanks for that, Shane. I think now we'll move on to questions. We got about 15 minutes left here. So we'll try to answer as many of the questions that have come in as possible.
So I think Tom was asking about more detailed views of reporting. So any of the GRC leaders like Tom and Sylvain or any others, I think we'd be happy to schedule a private thing to go in more detail with you on that. Probably a lot of the group doesn't use GRC, so they're not interested. And in fairness to them, we'll get in more details with that, and we'll schedule something with you. What else do we have?
Yeah, so I see a question here. I have a lot of projects that run in Exchange. How do I automate and import to GRC to create questionnaires and visualizations? So that's a great question. Actually, Shane, do you want to maybe walk through the steps in order to automate and export to GRC?
Definitely, yeah, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that question, because that's what I'm hoping our customers will start doing, is to take advantage of that engine on AX to be able to automate that. And best way to try this out is to do it manually the first time within ACL Analytics, and you can do that with the export command. So if you go through the menu and go Data, Export, on the right-hand side where you choose from the types of formats, you'll see ACL GRC. After selecting that, you'll get a chance to choose which collection or which area of your results module that you'd want to save that data, or you can create a new container within there at the same time. After you do that once, check your results, see what it looks like, and then you can go back into your command log, and that will be your command that you'll use within your script to automate that in the future. A couple things to think about when you do that is you do have the option of appending to an existing table, just as you can with an ACL Analytics, or you have the option of overriding it completely if you want. So think about how you want that to look and choose the correct option.
Thanks for that, Shane. We do have a couple questions as well around our plans for data connectors, one specifically talking about Workday and one about Twitter. So those are actually two that are on our radar to add. We think they're obviously, with Workday being an HR application that a lot of our customers use, there's some real value to adding Workday as a connector, and we've been looking into it, as well as we think people can do some really interesting analytics using Twitter feeds. I know that, so we are looking into that, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn and some other social media data connectors. So those are some great examples of data connectors that we're looking for. Each one that we add does require, sort of a bunch of work we have to do on our side, so we're trying to prioritize the ones that we think provide the most value to our users first. So I really, if there are ones that would be really critical and provide a lot of value to your organization, head over to our communities forum, either vote on if someone has already added that particular connector as an idea, upvote it, or add a new one, and so the community can upvote it, and that'll help us do some of that prioritization. As well as I see a question about, is all SQL supported? And I saw another question about whether you can join more than 5 tables in the new data access wizard. So I think those are both good questions, and they kind of go together actually. So in the user interface, when you're joining tables on the server side for the new sort of data import wizard, you can join up to 5 tables in that user interface. If you need to join more than 5 tables, you can actually go into what we call expert mode or SQL mode, and you can actually enter freeform SQL into there that will send SQL to the database, and using that command, you can actually join as many tables as you want. So the idea there was to provide a really good user interface for people to join tables together. There's a bit of a limitation there to keep the user interface usable. For people who wanted to join more than 5 tables, we assumed that they had a bit better of an understanding of SQL, and so we provide sort of that expert interface where you can enter freeform SQL, and actually you need to enter it in the format that the database is expecting. So we just send the SQL statement to the database, and then whatever the database returns from that SQL statement will be what you get back in ACL Analytics.
Hey, Kevin, just a quick comment too about that if people are using it, because I heard there was 2 common issues with customers that are getting into the SQL mode, is just things to watch out for, is blank lines. We interpret the code until there is a blank line. So if your SQL has blank lines, which it shouldn't, just make sure you move those. And also just a quick mention about comments. I know with 12.0 we did have an issue with with single line comments, but that's been corrected in 12.5.
Another question, can you join tables from the data wizard with tables already created in desktop? I guess that's asking if you have already imported tables, if you can join them in the data access wizard So the answer would be no. So the data access wizard allows you to join tables that you haven't imported yet that are in your database. Essentially, you're doing server-side joins on the database side before you bring that data into ACL Analytics. If you already have a table in Analytics that you want to join with a table from a database, you would have to import that table from the database first and then join it using the join command in Analytics. And then one other question on how do the new report templates work. I'm assuming that that's talking about impact reports. If you actually go into ACL GRC and you click into impact reports in projects module, there'll actually be a link there where you can get more information on how to request your own formatted report and also show some examples of what types of Word and PowerPoint reports can be created there. Yeah, so I think that concludes all the questions.
Oh, there was one more follow-up to Rob's question you just answered. He said, is that, will there be a future feature based on the question you just answered?
The combining tables.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, the design team will be working on a combined function, so I think Ruben and Shane would be happy to connect with Eric, so that's great.
Yeah, so just reach out to us after the webinar, and actually the product designer who's in charge of implementing that in Analytics can reach out to you and kind of give you more information on that. But the idea of the combine command is to kind of take away all the hassle of having to harmonize the field lengths and field types of all your fields, and the combine command will take a lot of that pain off your shoulders. And basically harmonize the different tables for you and then just append them together. So really about just making that whole process of combining tables a lot easier and taking away all that pain of having to figure out the field lengths of all the different fields and all of that.
Great. Well, thanks. Thanks for those answers and everybody for attending. So if you have any ideas, we strongly encourage you guys to actually post it in our community page. Kevin and also our other product designers do regularly go into that page to look at more ideas and also responding and planning the roadmap based on all the feedback that you guys give. So not only yourselves, I would recommend that you guys let your members know to submit their ideas as well. The more the merrier. We are always wanting to find ways to improve our products. So finally, just a quick note that ACL Connections is happening in Nashville, Tennessee this year in September. If you guys have not already registered, we definitely encourage you guys to register. It's going to be an epic event. It is celebrating ACL's 30th year in business, so we really want to see you guys there. For ACL user group leaders, you do get complimentary tickets to Connections, and for user group members, they do get $200 off the current price tag. I believe right now is the price tag for the registration is $11.95, so user group members will get $200 off from that. This will conclude our webinar. Thank you everybody for attending. We have this webinar recorded, and we will be posting all the resources on this webinar to the user group channel in user group leader channel in community. So if you guys have any questions, you can also post it there, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions there. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Kris, and thank you, everybody. Bye.